Waitress accidentally calmed the Vampire King's crying son when every other human had collapsed in terror trying to approach him. What she didn't realize was that her immunity to his deathly aura marked her as a null, a bloodline his kind had spent centuries hunting to extinction. The Vampire King's eyes turned crimson, his hands trembling as he whispered, "Impossible," before vanishing into shadow to claim the one human who could destroy everything he'd built. The cafe was packed that evening. The warm glow of Edison bulbs hung lazily from exposed wooden beams, casting soft shadows across the brick walls. Chatter filled the air. Laughter from a group of college students near the window, the clinking of ceramic mugs, the hiss of the espresso machine. It was the kind of comfortable noise that made people feel safe. But all of that shattered in an instant. A piercing scream tore through the room. Not a human scream. Not quite. It was high-pitched, raw, and carried a frequency that made the windows rattle. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Heads turned. The sound came again, louder this time, trembling with a rage that didn't belong to anything small or helpless. It came from a corner booth near the back, where a black stroller sat alone, rocking slightly with each furious cry. People started to move, not toward it, away from it. Chairs scraped against the floor. A man grabbed his girlfriend's hand and pulled her toward the door. A mother scooped up her toddler and hurried out without paying. The college students abandoned their laptops and bolted. Within seconds, half the cafe had emptied. Those who remained stood frozen, backs pressed against the walls, eyes wide with an instinctive, primal fear. And then there was her, Mira, 23, perpetually exhausted, her dark hair tied in a messy bun, her apron stained with coffee and syrup. She had been wiping down a table when the screaming started. While everyone else recoiled, she looked up with concern, not fear. Concern. What she didn't realize was that the child in that stroller wasn't human, and what she didn't realize was that her lack of fear, her instinct to help instead of run, marked her as something the vampire world had been searching for. Someone immune to their aura, someone who could touch their young without trembling, someone dangerous. And miles away, in a mansion cloaked in shadow and silence, the Vampire King felt it, a pull, a disturbance. His son had been left alone for mere minutes, and now someone was approaching him, someone who shouldn't be able to. His eyes turned black, and he vanished into the night. Mira didn't think, she just moved. Her coworkers had already ducked behind the counter, and her manager had locked himself in the storage room. The few remaining customers were plastered against the walls, like they were trying to phase through them. But Mira? She walked straight toward the stroller. Hey, it's okay," she murmured softly, crouching down beside it. Her voice was calm, soothing, the kind of tone you'd use with a frightened animal. She peeked inside. The baby was small, maybe 6 months, pale, too pale. His skin had an almost translucent quality, like porcelain stretched over delicate bone. His eyes were squeezed shut, his tiny fists clenched as he wailed. But it wasn't just the crying that was strange, it was the air around him. It felt heavy, oppressive, like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in that corner alone. Mira frowned. She reached out slowly, her fingers brushing the edge of the blanket tucked around him. The baby's eyes snapped open. They were black, completely black. No iris, no white, just endless, bottomless black. Mira should have screamed, should have run. Every instinct in a normal human would have kicked in, flooding her system with adrenaline and terror. But she didn't feel it. She felt nothing, just curiosity and concern. "Oh, you poor thing. You're scared, aren't you?" She reached in and gently scooped him up, cradling him against her chest. The baby stiffened for a moment, his tiny cries faltering. Then slowly, he relaxed. His tiny fingers curled into the fabric of her shirt, his head nestled against her shoulder. And just like that, the screaming stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Mira rocked him gently, humming under her breath. She didn't notice the way everyone in the cafe was staring at her like she just performed a miracle or a death wish. "There we go. she murmured. You're okay. You're okay. The baby let out a soft, shuddering breath. His eyes, still black, blinked slowly, then drifted shut. Within moments, he was asleep. Mira smiled. See? Not so scary. That's when the door slammed open. The force of it rattled the hinges. A gust of cold wind swept through the cafe, extinguishing several candles. And standing in the doorway, framed by the darkness outside, was a man. No, not a man. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and a presence that seemed to fill the entire room. His hair was black, slicked back, and his skin was the same pale shade as the baby's. He wore a long coat that billowed slightly in the windless air, and his eyes were crimson, not red, crimson, the color of fresh blood, and they were locked directly on Mira. The remaining customers didn't just leave, they fled, scrambling over chairs, tripping over each other in their desperation to get out. Within seconds, the cafe was empty, except for Mira and him. He took a step forward, then another. His movements were slow, deliberate, predatory. His gaze never left her. Mira's heart should have been pounding, her hands should have been shaking, but they weren't. She just stood there, holding the baby, watching him approach with the same calm curiosity she'd shown the child. Who are you? His voice was low, smooth, but edged with something sharp, dangerous. Mira blinked. I work here? His eyes narrowed. You're holding my son. She glanced down at the baby, then back up at him. Oh, he was crying. How? How what? How are you holding him? The man's voice dropped even lower, and for the first time, Mira felt a flicker of unease. Not fear, just awareness, like standing too close to a cliff edge. Look, I don't know what's going on, but your kid was upset, and I helped. That's it. You can go now. The man tilted his head slightly, his eyes sharpening. What's your name? Mira. Mira. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting it. I am KL, and this, he glanced down at the sleeping baby, is my son, Cassian. Cool. Nice to meet you both. Can I get back to work now? KL's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. No. Mira blinked. No? You're coming with me. Excuse me? You've touched my son. You've calmed him. That means you're either incredibly valuable or incredibly dangerous. His crimson eyes gleamed, and I intend to find out which. Before Mira could protest, the world around her blurred. The cafe vanished, and when her vision cleared, she was standing in a marble hall lined with torches, surrounded by shadows and silence. And KL was smiling. Welcome, he said softly, to my world. Mira stumbled backward, her sneakers squeaking against the polished marble floor. Her breath came in short gasps, not from fear, but from sheer disorientation. One second, she'd been standing in the cafe, and the next, this. The hall stretched endlessly in both directions, illuminated by flickering torches mounted on stone walls. The ceiling was vaulted, disappearing into darkness above. Gothic arches framed doorways that led to places she couldn't see. Everything about this place screamed old, ancient, wrong. What just happened? Mira's voice echoed. KL stood a few feet away, still cradling Cassian. His expression was unreadable. I brought you here. How? Does it matter? Yes? Mira's voice cracked. Yes, it matters. You can't just kidnap people. I didn't kidnap you. KL's tone was infuriatingly calm. I relocated you. That's literally the same thing. No, kidnapping implies you're in danger. His crimson eyes met hers. You're not. Yet. Yet? KL turned and began walking down the hall, his coat sweeping behind him. Follow me. What if I don't want to? He paused mid-step, glancing back over his shoulder. Then you'll stand there alone in a place you don't understand, surrounded by creatures you can't see. Your choice. Mira's jaw clenched. She looked around. The shadows in the corners seemed to shift, whisper. She couldn't tell if it was her imagination or something worse. With a frustrated huff, she followed him. They walked in silence. Mira's mind raced. This couldn't be real. It had to be a prank, or a dream, or maybe she'd been drugged. That made sense. Someone had slipped something into her coffee and now she was hallucinating. Except it felt too real. The cold air, the echo of her footsteps, the weight of the silence. "Where are we?" she finally asked. "My home." "And where is that, like geographically?" "Nowhere you'd find on a map." "Ugh, you're really bad at answering questions." Kael's lips twitched again, that almost smile. "I'm selective." They reached a large wooden door carved with intricate symbols. Kael pushed it open with one hand, revealing a spacious room beyond. It looked like a study, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk, a fireplace crackling with blue flames. Blue, not orange. Blue. Mira stared. Okay, that's definitely not normal. Kael walked to a cushioned chair near the fireplace and carefully laid Cassian down. The baby stirred, but didn't wake. Kael adjusted the blanket around him, his movements gentle, protective. Then he straightened and turned to face Mira. "Sit." "I'd rather stand." "Sit," he repeated, his voice dropping into something colder. Mira sat. Kael remained standing, his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on her like she was a specimen under glass. "Tell me about yourself." "Why?" "Because I need to understand what you are." "I already told you, I'm a waitress." "You're human, but you're not normal." Mira bristled. "Wow, thanks." "I don't mean it as an insult." He leaned against the edge of the desk, still watching her. "Humans have a natural response to vampires. Fear, instinct, survival mechanisms that tell them to run. It's built into your species, a reaction to our aura, the energy we emit. Most humans can't even look at me without trembling." Mira frowned. "I'm looking at you right now." "Exactly. So what? You think I'm broken or something?" "I think you're immune." Kael's eyes narrowed. "And that's never happened before." Mira opened her mouth, then closed it. She didn't know what to say. She didn't feel special. She felt tired, confused, and increasingly annoyed. "Look," she said finally, "I don't know what you want from me, but I didn't ask for any of this. I just helped a crying baby. That's it. Can I go home now?" "No." "Why not?" "Because if you're immune to vampire aura, that makes you dangerous." Mira laughed bitterly. "Dangerous? I'm 5'4" and I cry during dog commercials. I'm not dangerous." "You don't understand," Kael said, pushing off the desk and taking a step closer. "Vampire children are volatile. Their aura is unstable, uncontrolled. It's a defense mechanism. Anyone who gets too close feels it, crushing fear, paralysis, sometimes worse. It's why Cassian was left alone, why no one could calm him." Mira glanced at the sleeping baby. "He didn't seem that scary." "That's the problem." Kael's voice hardened. "You didn't feel anything. No fear, no hesitation. You walked right up to him like he was a normal child. Do you understand what that means?" "That I'm nice?" "That you're a threat." Mira's breath caught. "A threat to who?" "To us, to my kind." Kael's crimson eyes burned into hers. "If you're immune, you could get close to our young, our vulnerable. You could harm them, or worse, someone could use you to harm them." "I would never." "I don't know that," Kael said, his voice sharp. "I don't know you, and until I do, you're not leaving." Mira's heart pounded. This was insane, all of it, but the way he looked at her, cold, calculating, utterly serious, told her he wasn't bluffing. "So what, you're just going to keep me here? Like a prisoner?" "Like a guest," Kael corrected. "A guest who will be watched, tested, studied." "Studied?" Mira's voice rose. "I'm not a lab rat." "You're an anomaly." Kael's expression didn't change. "And anomalies are dangerous." Mira stood abruptly, her fists clenched. "You can't do this. I have a life, a job. People who'll notice I'm gone." "Will they?" Kael tilted his head. A waitress in a cafe, no family listed in your emergency contacts, no close friends. You live alone in a studio apartment and work double shifts to pay rent. No one will miss you, Mira. Not really. Her blood ran cold. How do you... I know everything about you, Kael said calmly. I had you investigated the moment I felt the disturbance, before I even arrived. Mira's legs felt weak. She sank back into the chair, her mind reeling. He'd been watching her, tracking her, and she hadn't even known it. Why? She whispered. Because my son's safety is all that matters. Kael's voice softened slightly, but his gaze remained hard. And you, Mira, are either his greatest protector or his greatest threat. Before she could respond, a door at the far end of the room opened. A woman stepped through, tall, elegant, with silver hair and eyes like molten gold. She moved with a grace that seemed inhuman, her gaze sweeping over Mira with cold curiosity. "So this is her," she said. Kael nodded. "Yes." The woman approached slowly, circling Mira like a predator. "She doesn't look like much." "Appearances can be deceiving," Kael said. The woman stopped in front of Mira, leaning down until their faces were inches apart. Mira forced herself not to flinch. "What's your name, girl?" "Mira." "Mira." The woman's lips curved into a thin smile. "I am Seraphine, Kael's advisor, and I will be the one testing you." Mira's pulse quickened. "Testing me how?" Seraphine straightened, her smile widening. "You'll see." She turned to Kael. "Prepare the chamber. I want to begin tonight." Kael hesitated. "Are you sure? If she's truly immune, then we need to know the extent of it." Seraphine's golden eyes gleamed. "And if she's not, well, we'll find out soon enough." Mira's stomach dropped. "Wait, what does that mean?" No one answered. Seraphine swept from the room, leaving Mira alone with Kael and the sleeping baby. Kael met her gaze, and for the first time she saw something in his eyes that wasn't cold calculation. It was pity. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. And Mira knew, whatever was coming next, it was going to hurt. Mira was led down a spiral staircase that seemed to descend forever. The walls were damp, the air growing colder with each step. Torches lined the passage, their flames casting warped shadows that danced across the stone. She tried to keep her breathing steady, tried to think, but her mind was a storm of panic and disbelief. This couldn't be happening. Behind her, Kael walked in silence, Cassian still cradled in his arms. The baby hadn't woken once. Ahead, Seraphine glided down the stairs like she was floating, her silver hair shimmering in the torchlight. "Where are we going?" Mira asked, her voice echoing. "The testing chamber," Seraphine replied without looking back. "And what exactly are you testing?" "Your limits." Mira's pulse trembled. She shoved her hands into her pockets. "What if I don't want to be tested?" Seraphine laughed, a cold, musical sound. "Then you'll die wondering what you were." Mira's breath hitched. She glanced back at Kael. "Are you really okay with this?" His expression was unreadable. "It's necessary." "For who?" "For everyone." They reached the bottom of the staircase. A heavy iron door stood before them, engraved with symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint red glow. Seraphine placed her hand on the door, and it groaned open, revealing a vast circular chamber. The room was unlike anything Mira had ever seen. The floor was etched with intricate patterns, circles within circles, symbols she didn't recognize. At the center stood a stone platform, and surrounding the room, carved into the walls, were alcoves. In each alcove sat a figure, motionless, watching. Vampires. Dozens of them. Mira's heart slammed against her ribs. "What is this?" "The council chamber," Kael said quietly, "where we judge threats." "I'm not a threat." "That," Seraphine said, stepping into the chamber, "is what we're here to determine." Mira's pulse trembled. "Stand still," Seraphine instructed. "Why? What are you going to do?" Seraphine raised her hand. The symbols on the floor began to glow brighter. The air grew heavy, oppressive. Mira's knees buckled slightly, but she forced herself to stand upright. "We're going to expose you," Seraphin said, to pure vampiric aura, concentrated, unfiltered. If you're truly immune, you'll survive. If you're not, well, you'll break. Before Mira could protest, the chamber erupted in pressure. It hit her like a tidal wave, not physical, something deeper, something primal. It was fear and rage and hunger all at once, crashing into her mind. Her vision blurred, her chest tightened, she couldn't breathe. The vampires in the alcoves were releasing their aura, all of them, simultaneously. Mira gasped, dropping to her knees, her hands pressed against the cold stone. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Her body was frozen. "Stop," she choked out. "Please." No one responded. The pressure intensified. It felt like her skull was being crushed. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She could feel it, the weight of their presence, their power, pressing down on her like she was drowning. But then, something shifted. The fear was still there, the pressure, but underneath it, Mira felt something else, something strange, like a barrier inside her mind, a wall. The aura was crashing against it, but it wasn't breaking through. She grit her teeth and forced herself to stand. The room fell silent. Seraphin's eyes widened. Kale took a step forward, his crimson eyes fixed on Mira. "Are you all right?" Mira let out a shaky laugh. "Define all right." "You shouldn't be conscious, let alone standing." "Yeah, well, guess I'm full of surprises." Seraphin sedented from her position, her golden eyes blazing. "This changes everything." "What does that mean?" "It means she's not just immune." Seraphin circled Mira slowly like a scientist observing a new species. "She has resistance, natural resistance to our influence." "How is that possible?" "I don't know." Seraphin's voice was sharp. "But it's dangerous." "I'm dangerous," Mira flared back. "You're the ones who just tried to crush my brain." "We were testing you," Seraphin said coldly, "and you passed. Congratulations, you're even more valuable than we thought." "I don't want to be valuable," Mira shot back. "I want to go home." "That's not an option." "Why not?" "Because now," Kale said quietly, "you're a target." Mira's blood ran cold. "A target for who?" "Everyone." Kale's expression was grim. "If word gets out that a human is immune to our aura, every faction in the vampire world will want you. Some will want to study you, others will want to use you, and some," he paused, "will want you dead." Mira's legs felt weak again. "This is insane." "This is reality," Seraphin said, "and like it or not, you're part of our world now." One of the council members spoke again. "What do you propose, Seraphin?" Seraphin turned to face the alcoves. "We keep her here, under guard, until we understand what she is and how to neutralize the threat." "Neutralize?" Mira's voice cracked. "You mean kill me?" "If necessary." Kale's jaw tightened. "No." Seraphin's head snapped toward him. "Excuse me?" "I said no." Kale's tone dropped into something dark and commanding. "I'm the king. His word is final." The chamber fell silent. The council members exchanged glances but said nothing. Seraphin's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake." "Perhaps," Kale met her gaze evenly, "but it's mine to make." He turned to Mira and extended his hand. "Come." Mira hesitated, then took it. His grip was cold but steady. Together they walked out of the chamber, leaving Seraphin and the council behind. Kale led Mira back up the spiral staircase in silence. Cassian had woken and was now gazing up at his father with wide, curious eyes, still black, but somehow less unsettling now. When they reached the top, Kale finally spoke. "You're staying in the East Wing. You'll have your own room. Food will be brought to you." "So I'm a prisoner." "You're a guest," Kale corrected. "A protected guest. Same thing." Kale stopped and turned to face her. "I know you're scared, and angry, and confused, but I meant what I said. You're under my protection. No one will harm you." "Why?" Mira asked quietly. "Why protect me?" Kale's gaze softened, just slightly. Because you protected him. He glanced down at Cassian, who was now reaching toward Mira with one tiny hand. Mira's heart clenched. Despite everything, despite the fear and the insanity, she couldn't help but smile. She reached out and let Cassian wrap his fingers around hers. "He likes you," Kale said. "Yeah, well, he's the only one." Kale didn't respond, but as he watched her with his son, something flickered in his crimson eyes, something almost human. The east wing was quieter than the rest of the mansion. The hallways were narrower, lined with faded tapestries and portraits of stern-faced figures whose eyes seemed to follow Mira as she passed. Kale led her to a heavy wooden door and pushed it open, revealing a bedroom that looked like it belonged in a gothic romance novel. A four-poster bed dominated the space, draped in deep burgundy curtains. A fireplace crackled softly against one wall. A wardrobe stood in the corner, intricately carved. A large window overlooked a courtyard bathed in moonlight. It was beautiful, and it felt like a cage. "This is your room," Kale said, stepping inside. Cassian had fallen asleep again, nestled against his father's chest. Mira walked to the window and stared out. "How long do I have to stay here?" "I don't know." "That's not reassuring." "I know," Kale moved to the fireplace, adjusting Cassian in his arms. "But it's the truth." Mira turned to face him. "What happens now?" "Now you rest. Tomorrow we'll begin figuring out what you are." "I already told you what I am." "You told me what you think you are," Kale said, "but there's more to you than you realize." "Like what?" Mira crossed her arms. "I don't know yet," Kale met her gaze, "but I intend to find out." He turned to leave, but Mira's voice stopped him. "Kale." He paused in the doorway. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not letting them kill me." Kale didn't turn around. "Don't thank me yet." And with that, he was gone. Mira didn't sleep that night. She lay in the massive bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that had happened. The cafe, the baby, the chamber, the council. It all felt like a nightmare, but the cold ache in her chest told her it was real. She thought about her apartment, her job, her life. It wasn't much, but it was hers, and now it was gone, stolen by a world she didn't understand. Hours passed, the fire burned low, and eventually, exhaustion pulled her under. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the window. Mira blinked, disoriented. Sunlight? Weren't vampires supposed to... The door creaked open. A young woman stepped inside, carrying a tray of food. She had pale skin, dark hair, and eyes like polished amber. She moved with the same inhuman grace Mira had seen in the others. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice soft. "I'm Elara. I'll be attending to you during your stay." Mira sat up slowly. "Attending to me?" "Bringing you meals, answering questions, keeping you company." Elara set the tray on a small table by the window. "Lord Kale's orders." Mira frowned. "Lord?" Elara smiled faintly. "He's the vampire king. We use titles." "Right," Mira rubbed her face. "And you're also a vampire?" "Yes." "Cool. Cool." Mira took a breath. "So, sunlight. I thought vampires couldn't..." "Common misconception." Elara pulled back the curtains fully. "We're weakened by sunlight, not killed. It's uncomfortable, but manageable. Most of us just prefer the night." Mira processed that. "Okay, what else is a misconception?" Elara tilted her head, considering. "Garlic does nothing. Crosses are meaningless unless you believe in them. We don't turn into bats, and we're not undead. We're just different." "Different how?" Mira asked. "We're faster, stronger. We live longer, and we need blood to survive." She said it so casually, like she was listing ingredients for a recipe. Mira's stomach turned. "Do you kill people?" "Some do." Elara's expression darkened. "But most of us have learned to coexist. We have donors, volunteers, people who provide blood willingly." "That's a thing?" "It's been a thing for centuries." Elara gestured to the tray. "You should eat. You'll need your strength." Mira glanced at the food: bread, fruit, cheese, water. It looked normal, safe. She picked up a piece of bread and took a cautious bite. It tasted fine, real. "Why are you being nice to me?" Elara smiled sadly. "Because I know what it's like to be afraid." Before Mira could respond, the door opened again. This time it was Kale. He looked the same as the night before, impeccable, cold, intimidating. But there was something different in his eyes, a weariness. "Elara," he said, "leave us."
Ilara bowed her head and slipped out of the room, closing the door behind her. Kale crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe. "How are you feeling?" "Like I've been kidnapped by vampires," Mira said flatly. "Fair," Kale's lips twitched. "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Good. Come with me." Mira set down the bread. "Where are we going?" "To meet someone." Kale led her through the mansion's winding corridors. They passed other vampires. Some nodded to Kale, others stared at Mira with open curiosity. She tried to ignore them. Eventually, they reached a large set of double doors. Kale pushed them open, revealing a library. It was massive. Shelves stretched to the ceiling, filled with books in every language imaginable. Ladders leaned against the walls. Desks were scattered throughout, covered in scrolls and manuscripts. And sitting at one of the desks was an old man. He looked human, wrinkled skin, white hair, round glasses perched on his nose. He hunched over a book, scribbling notes with a quill. "Professor," Kale said. The old man looked up. His eyes were a startling blue, sharp and alert. "Ah, the girl. Her name is Mira," Kale said. "Mira, yes." The professor stood, moving with surprising energy for someone his age. He approached her, peering through his glasses. "Fascinating."
Mira took a step back. "Who are you?" "Professor Aldrich Thorne," he said. "Historian, scholar, and one of the few humans allowed to live in this place." Mira's eyes widened. "You're human?" "Indeed," Aldrich smiled. "I've spent the last 40 years studying vampire history and culture. They tolerate me because I'm useful." "And you're okay with that?" "I'm alive," Aldrich said simply. "That's more than most humans can say after meeting them." Kyle cleared his throat. "Professor, I need you to research something." Aldrich turned to him. "The girl's immunity?" "Yes." "I've already begun." Aldrich gestured to the desk, where several books lay open. "There are legends, old stories, about humans who were resistant to vampire influence." Mira's pulse quickened. "Legends?" "Myths, mostly," Aldrich said. "But myths often have roots in truth." He flipped through one of the books. "There's a term, nulls, humans who emit a natural counter-frequency to vampire aura. Extremely rare, most were hunted down centuries ago." "Why?" asked Mira. "Because they were dangerous," Aldrich said. "A null could walk among vampires without fear, could kill them without hesitation. They were seen as abominations." Mira's breath caught. "Are you saying I'm one of them?" "I'm saying it's possible." Aldrich looked at Kyle. "If she is, it would explain everything." Kyle's jaw tightened. "If she is, the council won't let her live." "Then don't tell them," Aldrich said bluntly. "Not until we know for sure." Kyle nodded slowly. He turned to Mira. "We'll keep this between us, for now." Mira's mind spun. Nulls, counter-frequency, abominations. She wasn't just immune. She was something the vampire world had spent centuries trying to erase. And now she was standing in the middle of their kingdom. "This keeps getting better," she muttered. Aldrich chuckled. "Welcome to the world of monsters, my dear. Try not to die." Over the next few days, Mira's life became a strange routine. She woke in the same massive bed, ate meals brought by Ilara, and spent hours in the library with Professor Aldrich. He taught her about vampire history, their origins, their wars, their hierarchies. It was overwhelming, but it kept her mind occupied. And every evening, Kyle would visit. He never stayed long, just checked in, asked how she was doing, made sure she had everything she needed. He rarely spoke about himself, but Mira noticed small things. The way he softened when he held Cassian, the way his eyes lingered on her when she thought she wasn't looking. It was confusing, unsettling, because despite everything, she didn't hate him. She should. He'd kidnapped her, imprisoned her, put her through hell. But he'd also protected her, stood up to the council for her. And somehow, in this nightmare, he'd become the one person she felt safe around. One evening, Mira was sitting by the window in her room when she heard a soft knock. "Come in," she said.
expecting Ilara. Instead, Kyle stepped inside, Cassian in his arms. The baby was awake, his black eyes wide and curious. "I thought you might want company," Kyle said. Mira smiled despite herself. "Yours or his?" "Both," Kyle said. Kyle settled Cassian on his lap. The baby reached toward Mira, making soft cooing sounds. "He remembers you," Kyle said. Mira extended her hand and Cassian grabbed her finger, holding on tightly. "Hi, little guy." Cassian gurgled happily. Kyle watched them with an expression Mira couldn't quite read. "You're good with him," Kyle said. "I like kids," Mira said. "I used to babysit when I was younger." "Did you ever want your own?" Mira paused. The question felt too personal, too intimate, but something about the quiet of the room, the warmth of the fire, made her answer honestly. "I don't know," she said. "I never really thought I'd have the chance." "Why not?" "Because I was always too busy just surviving." Mira's voice grew quieter. "I didn't have parents, foster care, aged out of the system at 18, been on my own ever since." Kyle's expression softened. "I'm sorry." Mira shrugged. "It's fine, I'm used to it." "That doesn't make it fine." She looked up at him, surprised. He was watching her with something that almost looked like empathy. "What about you?" Mira asked. "Where's Cassian's mother?" Kyle's jaw tightened. "She's gone." "Gone as in left, or gone as in dead?" The word was flat, final. Mira's chest tightened. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a long time ago." "How long?" 50 years. Mira blinked. "Wait, how old are you?" 247. She stared at him. "That's insane." "That's life, for us anyway." Kyle looked down at Cassian, his expression distant. His mother was human. She died giving birth to him. Mira's heart sank. "Oh." "Vampire-human hybrids are rare and dangerous. The pregnancy almost always kills the mother. I tried to stop it, begged her to reconsider, but she wanted him." His voice broke slightly. "She wanted him more than anything." Mira didn't know what to say, so she just sat there, holding Cassian's tiny hand, letting the silence stretch. "He's all I have left of her," Kyle said quietly. Mira's throat tightened. "He's lucky to have you." Kyle met her gaze. "I'm not a good man, Mira." "I'm not asking you to be." They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the crackling of the fire. Eventually, Cassian dozed off, and Kyle stood to leave. But at the door, he paused. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not running." He glanced back at her. "You could have fought me every step of the way, made this harder, but you didn't." Mira's lips curved to a faint smile. "Where would I run to?" Kyle almost smiled back. "Good point." And then he was gone. That night, Mira dreamed. She was standing in a field of tall grass under a blood-red moon. In the distance, she saw figures, shadows moving towards her. Their eyes glowed, crimson, gold, silver. And then she heard a voice. "You don't belong here." Mira spun. Behind her stood a woman, tall, ethereal, with white hair and eyes like ice. She wore a flowing black gown that seemed to merge with the darkness around her. "Who are you?" Mira asked. The woman snarled. "You'll find out soon enough." Before Mira could respond, the ground beneath her cracked. She fell, plummeting into darkness. She woke with a gasp. Her room was dark, the fire had burned out, and standing at the foot of her bed was a figure. Mira froze. The figure stepped forward, into the moonlight. It was Seraphine. "Hello, Mira," she said softly. Mira's heart pounded. "What are you doing here?" "I came to talk." Seraphine moved closer, her golden eyes gleaming. "Alone." Mira sat up slowly, every muscle tense. "If you're here to kill me—" "I'm not," Seraphine said. "I'm here to warn you." "Warn me about what?" Kael, Seraphine's voice was low. He's protecting you now, but that won't last. What do you mean? He's the king, Seraphine said, but he's not invincible. There are those in the council who want you dead, and they're growing impatient.
Mira's pulse quickened. So what do I do? You prove your worth. Seraphine leaned in. You show them you're not a threat, that you're useful. How? Seraphine smiled. That's for you to figure out. She stood and walked to the door. Before leaving, she glanced back. One more thing, she said. Don't trust Kale. Not completely. He has his own reasons for keeping you alive, and they may not align with yours. And with that, she vanished into the shadows. Mira sat there, trembling, her mind racing. She was surrounded by predators, and she had no idea who to trust. The next morning, Mira found Kale in the courtyard. He was training, moving through combat forms with lethal precision, his coat discarded, his shirt clinging to his frame. Kale, Mira called. He stopped mid-strike and turned. Mira, is something wrong? Seraphine came to my room last night. His expression darkened. What did she say? Mira hesitated, then told him everything. When she finished, Kale's jaw was clenched. She's trying to manipulate you. Is she lying? No, Kale's voice was hard, but she's not telling you the full truth either. Then tell me, why are you really protecting me? Kale met her gaze, and for the first time she saw conflict in his eyes. Because, he said slowly, you're the only person who's ever been able to calm my son, and if you die, I lose the one chance I have at giving him a normal life. Mira's breath caught. So I'm just useful? No, Kale stepped closer. You're more than that, but I don't know what yet. Mira swallowed. Seraphine said not to trust you. She's right. Kale's voice was quiet. You shouldn't. And with that, he walked away, leaving Mira standing alone in the courtyard, more confused than ever. Days turned into a week. Mira's world shrunk to the library, her room, and the occasional walk through the courtyard under Alara's watchful eye. She read, she learned, she tried to make sense of the impossible reality she'd fallen into. But beneath the routine, tension was building. She could feel it in the way the other vampires looked at her, the whispers that stopped when she entered a room, the way Seraphine watched her with cold calculation during the few times their paths crossed. And Kale was distant. He still visited, but the conversations were shorter, more guarded, like he was pulling away. Mira told herself it didn't matter, that she didn't care, but she did. One afternoon, Aldrich called her to the library. He was practically vibrating with excitement. I found something, he said, waving her over to his desk. Mira hurried over. What? He pointed to an ancient text, the pages yellowed and fragile. This is a journal, written by a vampire scholar over 600 years ago. And look, here. Mira leaned in. The handwriting was cramped, faded, but legible. The Null walked among us without fear, Aldrich read aloud. She bore no mark of magic, no blessing of the gods, yet her aura could not touch her. We believed she was cursed, but perhaps she was simply free. Mira's breath caught. Free? Free of influence, Aldrich said. The scholar theorized that Nulls weren't cursed or blessed. They were just neutral, like a blank slate. Immune because there was nothing in them for the aura to latch onto. But I'm not a blank slate. I feel things. I'm human. Emotionally, yes, but energetically, you might be different. He tapped the page. The scholar also mentions something else, a test, to confirm if someone was truly a null. What kind of test? A bonding ritual. Aldrich's expression grew serious. In vampire culture, bonding is sacred. It links two beings on a deep level, emotionally, mentally, sometimes even physically. If a human bonds with a vampire, they become tied, subject to their influence. Okay, Mira frowned. But if a null attempts to bond, the ritual fails. The connection can't form, because there's nothing for the bond to anchor to. Mira's stomach twisted. You want me to bond with someone? Not bond, attempt to bond. If it fails, we'll have proof of what you are. And if it succeeds? Aldrich hesitated. Then you're not a null, and the council will have no reason to fear you. Mira's pulse quickened. Would that be a good thing? I don't know, Aldrich admitted, but it's better than uncertainty. Before Mira could respond, the library doors burst open. Cale strode in, his expression dark. Professor, he said sharply, we have a problem. Aldrich straightened. What kind of problem? The council is calling an emergency session, tonight. Cale's crimson eyes flicked to Mira. They're voting on whether to execute you. Mira's blood turned to ice. What? Seraphine convinced them that you're too dangerous to keep alive, Cale said. She's pushing for immediate action. Can you stop it? Aldrich asked. I can delay it, but not indefinitely. I need proof that you're not a threat. Aldrich's eyes lit up. The bonding test. Cale frowned. What? Aldrich quickly explained the ritual. As he spoke, Cale's expression grew darker. No, he said flatly. It's the only way, Aldrich insisted. I said no. Cale's voice was hard. Bonding is irreversible. If the ritual succeeds, she'll be tied to someone for life. I won't subject her to that. Then what do you suggest? Aldrich demanded. Cale was silent. Mira stepped forward. I'll do it. Both men turned to her. Mira, Cale started. I'll do it, she repeated. If it'll prove I'm not a threat, I'll do it. You don't understand what you're agreeing to, Cale said. Then explain it to me. Cale's jaw tightened. A bond isn't just emotional, it's consuming. You'll feel everything the other person feels, their pain, their hunger, their desires, and they'll feel yours. It's invasive, inescapable. Mira swallowed. And if I'm a null, it won't work, right? Right, Aldrich said. Then I'll do it, Mira met Cale's gaze. I'd rather take the risk than die. Cale stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Fine, he said, but I'll be the one you bond with. Mira blinked. What? If you're going to tie yourself to someone, it'll be me. Cale's voice was firm. I can control the connection, make sure it doesn't hurt you. Cale, Aldrich started. It's decided. Cale turned to leave. Prepare the ritual. We do it tonight before the council convenes. And he was gone. The ritual took place in a small chamber beneath the library. It was circular, like the council chamber, but smaller, intimate. Candles lined the walls, casting flickering shadows. Aldrich stood at the center, holding an ancient book. Cale stood across from Mira, his expression unreadable. Are you sure about this? Cale asked quietly. You sure? He didn't answer.
Aldrich cleared his throat. The ritual is simple. You'll each make a small cut on your palm, then press your hands together. If a bond forms, you'll feel it immediately. Mira's hands trembled. And if it doesn't? Then you're free, Aldrich said. Cale drew a small blade from his coat. He cut his palm without hesitation, blood welling up, dark, almost black. Then he handed the blade to Mira. She took it, her heart pounding. The blade was cold, sharp. She pressed it to her palm and dragged it across. Pain flared. Blood dripped onto the stone floor. Cale extended his hand. Mira took it. The moment their palms touched, the world shifted. Heat flooded through her. Not painful, intense, overwhelming. She gasped, her knees buckling. Cale caught her, pulling her close. And then she felt it. Him. His emotions crashed into her like a storm. Anger, fear, guilt, loneliness, and beneath it all, something softer, something he'd been hiding, protectiveness. Mira's breath hitched. Cale? I feel you too, he whispered, and she realized he was feeling everything she was, the fear, the confusion, the strange, unwanted pull she'd been trying to ignore. The bond was forming. Aldrich's voice was distant. It's working. No, this wasn't supposed to happen. Mira tried to pull away, but Cale held her hand firm. Don't fight it, he said. You said... I know what I said. His crimson eyes locked onto hers. But it's too late now. The connection deepened. Mira could feel his heartbeat sinking with hers, could feel the weight of centuries pressing down on him, could feel... And then it stopped. The bond shattered. Mira gasped, stumbling backward. Cale released her hand, his expression stunned. Aldrich stared. It broke. What? Mira's voice shook. The bond, Aldrich said slowly. It started to form, but then it collapsed. Cale looked at his hand. The cut was already healing. She rejected it. Not rejected, negated. The bond couldn't hold because I'm a null, Mira finished. Aldrich nodded. Yes. Mira sank to the ground, her mind wheeling. She was a null, an anomaly, something that shouldn't exist. Cale crouched in front of her. Are you all right? Mira let out a shaky laugh. I don't know. He reached out, hesitating, then gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. You're safe now. The council can't argue with this. Are you sure? I'll make sure. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Mira believed him. The council session was held in the same oppressive chamber where Mira had been tested before, but this time she wasn't standing on the platform. She was sitting beside Cale at a long stone table, facing the semicircle of ancient vampires who made up the ruling council. Seraphine sat among them, her golden eyes fixed on Mira with barely concealed disdain. Tail stood, his presence commanding the room. The bonding test has been completed. Mira is confirmed as a null. Murmurs rippled through the council. One of the elder vampires, a woman with silver hair and a face like cracked porcelain, leaned forward. And what does that mean for us, Cale? It means she poses no direct threat. She cannot be influenced, cannot be controlled. But she also cannot harm us through any supernatural means. She's simply neutral. Neutral is still dangerous, Seraphine interjected. A null could infiltrate our ranks, could assassinate our leaders without triggering our defenses. She's not an assassin, Cale said sharply. She's a waitress. She was a waitress, Seraphine corrected. Now she's a liability. Another council member spoke, a man with a deep, rumbling voice. What do you propose, Seraphine? Execution, Seraphine said without hesitation, swift and final. Cale's eyes flashed crimson. No. You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment, Seraphine said. She calmed your son. That doesn't mean she's trustworthy. She's proven herself, Cale said sharply. She's cooperated, participated in our tests. She's done nothing to warrant execution. She exists, Seraphine said coldly. That's enough. The chamber fell silent. Mira's heart pounded. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, but she didn't know what to say. How do you argue against your own existence? The silver-haired elder raised her hand. The council will vote. Those in favor of execution. 4 hands rose. Mira's stomach dropped. Those opposed. 3 hands remained. The elder looked at Cale. And you, my king? I vote to spare her, Cale said firmly. The elder nodded. The vote is tied. As king, your word breaks the tie. Seraphine's expression darkened. This is a mistake. It's my mistake to make, Cale said. He turned to Mira. You're free, under my protection. Relief flooded through her, but it was short-lived. Seraphine stood abruptly. If she stays, I demand she be collared. Cale's jaw tightened. No. It's protocol, Seraphine said. Any human living among us must be marked, tracked, controlled. She's not. She's a null, Seraphine interrupted, which makes her more dangerous than a normal human. If she's to remain, she must be collared, or I walk. The chamber buzzed with tension. Cale's hands clenched into fists. You're bluffing. Try me, Seraphine said. The silver-haired elder sighed. Seraphine has a point. If the girl is to stay, she must be marked. It's for her protection as much as ours. Cale looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He turned to Mira. I'm sorry. Mira's throat tightened. What's a collar? A tracking device, Cale said quietly. It'll let us know where you are at all times. It's not pleasant. Will it hurt? Yes. Mira's hands trembled, but she forced herself to nod. Okay. Mira, it's fine, she said. Better than dying. Cale's expression was pained, but he didn't argue. The collaring took place in a small, sterile room. Mira sat in a metal chair, while a vampire she didn't recognize approached with a thin silver band. Hold still, the vampire said.
Mira gritted her teeth as the band was placed around her throat. It was cold, tight, and the moment it clicked shut, pain exploded through her neck. She gasped, her vision blurring. It felt like fire, like something was burrowing into her skin. "It's syncing with your nervous system," the vampire explained. "It'll stop hurting in a moment." A moment felt like an eternity, but eventually the pain faded to a dull ache. Mira touched the collar. It was seamless, smooth, like it had always been there. "Welcome to the family," the vampire said dryly, and left. Cale entered a moment later. He saw the collar and his expression darkened. "I should have fought harder," he said. "You did enough," Mira said hoarsely. Cale crouched in front of her. "I'm going to find a way to remove it, I promise." "Don't make promises you can't keep." "I don't." They sat in silence. Then Mira asked, "What happens now?" "Now," Cale said, "you live here. You're part of this world, whether you like it or not." Mira let out a bitter laugh. "Great." Cale stood. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you're alive." "Yeah," Mira said quietly.
Over the following weeks, Mira adapted. She learned the mansion's layout, memorized the faces of the vampires who lived there, avoided Seraphine, spent time with Aldrich and Ilara, and every few days Cale would visit. He brought Cassian often. The baby had grown fond of her, always reaching for her when he saw her, and Mira couldn't help but grow fond of him too. He was innocent, pure. Despite being half vampire, there was something achingly human about him. One evening, Mira was sitting in the courtyard, watching the sunset, when Cale joined her. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. "It's your house." He sat beside her, Cassian asleep in his arms. They watched the sky turn orange and pink in silence. "Do you regret it?" Cale asked quietly. "Regret what?" "Not running, that first night. You could have tried to escape." Mira thought about it. "Would I have made it?" "No." She smiled faintly. "Then, no, I don't regret it." Cale looked at her. "You're adapting well." "I'm surviving," Mira corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Mira met his gaze. "You tell me." Cale's expression softened. "I'm sorry for all of this." "I know. I wish things were different." "Me too." They fell silent again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. And for the first time in a long time, Mira felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. Maybe she couldn't go back to her old life, but maybe, just maybe, she could build a new one here. Months passed. The mansion became familiar. The vampires became faces instead of monsters, and Mira found herself falling into a strange kind of routine. She helped Ilara with chores, assisted Aldrich in the library, played with Cassian when Cale was occupied with council matters. It wasn't freedom, but it wasn't prison either. And somewhere along the way, things shifted between her and Cale. The distance faded, the walls came down. They talked more, laughed occasionally, and Mira began to see him not as the terrifying vampire king, but as someone lonely. Someone who carried the weight of centuries and wore it like armor. One night, Mira found him on the rooftop. He was standing at the edge, staring out at the sprawling estate below. The moon was full, casting silver light over everything. "You'll fall," Mira said, approaching carefully. "I won't. I'd survive it anyway." "Still seems risky." He glanced back at her. "Couldn't sleep?" "Not really." Mira joined him at the edge. "You?" "I don't sleep much." "Why not?" "Too many ghosts." Mira didn't press. She'd learned that Cale only opened up when he was ready. They stood in silence, the wind tugging at their clothes. "Do you miss it?" Cale asked. "Your old life?" Mira considered. "Sometimes, but it wasn't much of a life." "Still, it was yours." "Yeah," Mira's voice grew quieter. "But this is mine now too, in a weird way." Cale turned to face her. "Do you hate me?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "For taking you, for keeping you here. Do you hate me?" Mira met his gaze. "No." "You should." "Maybe, but I don't." Cale's expression was unreadable. "Why not?" "Because," Mira said slowly, "you're not as bad as you think you are." Cale let out a breath, almost a laugh. "You don't know me." "I know enough."
They stared at each other, and for a moment, Mira felt it again, that pull, that connection that had almost formed during the bonding ritual. It shouldn't exist. The bond had failed, but something was still there. Kale stepped closer. Mira. A scream shattered the night. Both of them froze. It came from inside the mansion, high-pitched, terrified. Kale's expression turned deadly. Stay here. Like hell, Mira said, following him. They raced through the corridors, following the sound. Other vampires emerged from rooms, confused and alarmed. The screaming led them to the east wing, to Cassian's nursery. Kale burst through the door and stopped. Mira looked over his shoulder, and her blood ran cold. Seraphine was standing in the center of the room, holding Cassian. The baby was crying, thrashing in her arms, and in her other hand she held a dagger. Seraphine. Kale's voice was low, dangerous. Put him down. Or what? She snarled. You'll kill me? In front of the council? Yes. Seraphine smiled. You won't, because the moment you do, they'll turn on you. You're already on thin ice, Kale. Protecting a knoll, breaking tradition. How much more will they tolerate? Kale took a step forward. What do you want? I want her gone, Seraphine said, nodding toward Mira. And since you won't do it, I will, through him. She pressed the dagger closer to Cassian. Kale's entire body went rigid. Don't. Give me the knoll, Seraphine said, or I'll make sure your son never reaches his first birthday. Mira's heart pounded. She looked at Kale, saw the agony in his eyes. He was going to give her up. He had to. But before he could speak, Mira stepped forward. Take me, she said. Mira, no, Kale started. Take me, Mira repeated, louder. Let him go, I'll come willingly. Seraphine's smile widened. Smart girl. She lowered the dagger and set Cassian down. The baby immediately crawled toward Kale, sobbing. Kale scooped him up, his eyes never leaving Seraphine. Your turn, Seraphine said to Mira. Mira walked forward slowly. Her legs felt like lead. But before she reached Seraphine, Kale's voice rang out. No. Seraphine frowned. What? I said no. Kale's voice was cold, final. He handed Cassian to Ilara, who had appeared in the doorway. Take him, now. Ilara hesitated, then obeyed. Kale turned back to Seraphine. You just threatened my son, in my home. That's treason. Seraphine's eyes widened. You wouldn't. Kale moved, faster than Mira could see. One moment he was across the room, the next he had Seraphine pinned against the wall, his hand around her throat. I told you, Kale said quietly, I protect what's mine. Seraphine clawed at his hand, gasping. The council can go to hell. And with a sickening crack, it was over. Seraphine's body crumpled to the floor. Mira stood frozen, unable to process what she'd just witnessed. Kale turned to her, his crimson eyes blazing. Are you hurt? Mira shook her head mutely. Good. Kale's voice was rough. He looked at the gathered vampires in the doorway. Anyone else have a problem with her being here? Silence. Then get out. They scattered. Kale crossed the room and pulled Mira into his arms. She didn't resist. Couldn't. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have seen this coming. Mira's voice was shaky. You killed her. Yes. For me? For you. For Cassian. For all of us. Kale pulled back, his hands on Mira's shoulders. I know it's insane, he said. I know it doesn't make sense. But I can't lose you. I won't. And before Mira could respond, he kissed her. It was desperate, fierce, like he was trying to anchor himself to her. And against all logic, all reason, Mira kissed him back. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. This is crazy, Mira whispered. I know, Kale said. We're from different worlds. I know. This can't work. I know, Kale sighed, a real smile. But I don't care. Mira let out a shaky laugh. Me neither. And in that moment, surrounded by shadows and danger, Mira realized something. She was home.